welcome back to another video. If you're already subscribed, welcome back, my darling. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do subscribe. Join a part of the family and community that we have growing here on YouTube. While you're down there subscribing, also turn your notification bell on for all notifications to become a part of the Morgan Shay Notify gang. And when you do so, you'll be notified of all content, including lives that are spontaneous, that go live on this channel. Just to go ahead and get it out of the way, warning, today's video is going to contain that of adult subject matter. We're going to be talking about drug use, drug addiction, drug overdose. We're also going to be talking about drugs in individual detail. We are going to be talking about specific drugs. We are going to be talking about intravenous drug use, depression, and, everything to do with that. So if any of these things are harmful, hurtful, triggering for you, hard for you to hear, any way, shape, form, or fashion, please click out of today's video now. There will be other options, as always, linked up in the cards for you now to go and watch instead. I'm super nervous, but this is something that I've wanted to do. Viewer discretion is advised. So we're going to go back a while. We are going to talk about several different instances in my drug addiction story. This is going to be a 6-part series. I do want everybody to keep an open mind. I know that this type of thing is hard for a lot of people to understand. So today we're going to get very heavy. We're going to go back to about a year and a month before I got sober. I do want to kind of paint a picture. At this point, the only thing I had was a phone. This phone was being paid for by somebody else. Also at this point, I was living from place to place, just wherever I could. I had been living with someone like full term for a year prior to this. And it got to where I couldn't get as high as often as I wanted to at that place anymore. So I started just kind of floating around. So we're going to refer to this person as A, that I had been spending a lot of time with for about a year. She was younger than I was, and I should have known better than to do what I was doing around this person. But when you're in addiction, all you care about is getting high. That's literally your mind is consumed by it. I was very deep into my addiction, and your whole day is just consumed by how are you going to get high the next time. That's literally what your day consisted of. And I'm really going to go into depth here because I want to paint you guys a picture, but I'm also not going to tell anyone else's story because that's not my place to do. And another person that they called them a friend, they were not a friend. This person is actually one of the people who introduced intravenous using to me. It wasn't the person who I got high with that way for the first time, but she was basically, I was using with her days later that way, if that makes sense. She had called me and wanted to hang out. Now, A, she knew that, we'll call this other person B. She knew that B was bad news bears, and she was like, Morgan, do not go hang out with her. She's only going to use you and hang you out to dry. And B had told me, if you come, I'll get you high, but I can't get A high. And see, that's the thing, right? When you're an addict, all you do is care about yourself. That's literally it. And so I go to meet with B, and she tells me, I couldn't find any. And at the time I was taking Opanas only. And she tells me, Morgan, I wasn't able to find any. I was only able to find heroin. And we decided to do heroin. Now, we did it intravenous, and all of this night is very, very fuzzy, but there was a person present who wasn't a drug user. I contacted this person to get more details of this night because it's all that whole 2 months is very blurry to me. And they told me that we did it, and I immediately fell to the floor, and B gave me Narcan. The third party, which we're not going to mention, also said that I immediately started to have foam coming out of my mouth, and my eyes were like in the back of my head. And this person thought I was having a seizure, but B knew that I was overdosing. I remember the next day everybody telling me what happened, and you know, I just got high again. I literally got high again. It didn't even occur to me. Only this time I got high on an Opana. So it wasn't heroin. And I continue to get high. I go back to A's. I don't tell A anything about me trying heroin. I don't tell her that I overdosed. I tell no one. Nobody knew except for those few people that were there. And I continue on. And I was still working very, like, when I say working, these people had to be like the most patient. Like, shout out to the dollar store is all I'm going to say. That's where I was working. I was working at the Dollar General at the time. I would leave whenever I would start to feel sick. Whenever my high would start to wear off, I would leave. I had no money saved at all. Every single penny that I made went straight to drugs. I also was helping out, how do I say this? I was helping out another person, we'll just say that. And I was watching, I don't know how to say this. I was babysitting a person's kids. We're just going to keep this very light here. I was babysitting a person's kids, and in return, they would give me pills. And this got really dangerous. This is when things got really, really bad. This is when my addiction like spiraled out of control. Because instead of me taking maybe 1 to 2 pills a day, now I'm getting used to taking 4 to 6. Like, it was getting out of control. So fast forward, I meet up with B again. This is going to be the first time that this has been said anywhere other than Chris. And I'm saying it on camera for the world. But it's the truth. And so I'm going to say it. So I meet up with B, and I have a hard time getting my medicine. I'm going to put it that way. Also, it was heroin. And she ends up doing it for me. I'm going to try to be limited on how I say that. But she does it for me, and I end up going back to A's. And I had pills for me and A to do. So I had already done H, and now we're going to do pills. I'm going to refer to pills as P now for the rest of this, because I just don't want to say it over and over and over and over. Anyways, so I go to A's, and my arm is feeling really sore. It feels like I've been hit with a bat in the same spot like 5 times over. It's sore. I don't say anything. I do my pee there, and all of a sudden, probably about an hour or so later, my arm is like double in size. And when I say my arm, I mean from my elbow to my fingertips. And in order for the pain, and at this point, it's not sore, it's painful. In order for the pain to stop, I had to hold my arm above my heart. If my arm was below my heart, it literally throbbed in pain. I was in so much discomfort. I ended up being given a sleeping pill by somebody, and that knocked me out. Now, at this point, I have no idea what's going on, because I did the H and the P in the same spot. So I have no idea what's going on. The next day, I wake up and my arm is triple in size. It's huge. By this point, I'm not sure exactly who reached out to my mother. Someone got in touch with my mother to let them know that my arm was huge. My mom calls me and wants to see my arm. I keep showing her my left arm over and over. She's like, Morgan, I'm not stupid. Let me see your right arm. I show her my right arm. She calls an ambulance. An ambulance comes to get me, takes me to the hospital, and I told them the truth because I had no idea what was going on, and the way that the people in the ambulance were behaving, I was scared. I was very scared as to what was going on. Now, it's also important to keep in mind at this point, my family had no clue that I was intravenously using drugs. No idea. They knew that I was doing drugs, but they had no clue that I was doing them that way. I arrive at the hospital and they just leave me in the waiting room. When I get in the waiting room, I see my cousin and my aunt in the waiting room. And I tell them what's going on. They see my arm and they're freaked out. Long story short, I get pulled into a room, basically like in triage, I guess. And I tell the doctor exactly what's going on. I tell him exactly what I did, and they start to do blood work. By this point, my whole family knows. My dad is on his way there. My mom and my sister are on their way from an hour away. Everybody's starting to show up, okay? And I know when they get there that I'm going to be telling them that what I've done. So the doctor comes in before anyone gets there and tells me there is fentanyl and elephant tranquilizer and there is an infection in your arm. He said, I'm going to run a couple of tests and I'll be back. So by this point, my family starts to show up. I'm humiliated. I'm embarrassed. I have nothing at this point. Absolutely nothing. I don't even have any way to describe how low I was at this point in my life. The doctor then comes in while my mom and my dad and sister are in the room and let me know that there's a possibility that I may lose my arm, but I'm going to have to go into surgery. So I go into surgery and I wake up. The next thing I know, obviously, if you've ever had surgery, you know how it goes. They put you to sleep, you wake up. That's how it feels. I wake up in recovery and I still have my arm. It's bandaged up, and the first thing when I wake up, I think, oh my God, I'm in so much fucking pain. So the nurse tells me in the recovery room, she's like, we're going to keep you comfortable, obviously, but because of your situation, we are going to be putting you on floor 7, and we are going to be keeping you comfortable until you are able to get into a rehab. She also explains to me that because the surgery was in my hand and wrist, that I'm going to be in a lot of pain because it is such a tender area of the body and there's so many nerves. She said that this is going to be very painful. Every day we're going to have to change your bandaging and it's going to be very uncomfortable. And bitch, was she right. I cannot even describe to you the pain that it was that I felt. And in the hospital, they monitored like who came to visit me. I could not go out and smoke, which was misery for me at the time. I just remember thinking, I just want to leave this hospital so I can get high. After all of this, that's all I can think about. 7 days after being in the hospital, my parents find me a rehab and I end up going to Nashville to go to rehab. When I get to rehab, I stay for 31 days and I have someone come pick me up and I go and immediately get high. I told you guys this in my thoughts on Demi Lovato's Dancing with the Devil. The next bit of this is going to be saved for part 2. At the end of this, I've overdosed, I've about lost my arm, and I have nothing but a cell phone. Keep all of that in mind before the next video. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help. There will be phone numbers and links below. Please just be safe. And if you have a loved one or family member in a situation like this, just know until they're ready, the best you can do for them is love them and support them and offer them help. However, until they're ready, unfortunately, that's all you can do. I'm proof, and there's so many others that are proof that recovery is possible. I am going to share at the end of this my sobriety and what works for me. But I do want you guys to keep in mind that just because that's what works for me, it may not be what works for you. I fucking love every single fucking 630 of you so much. And whether you know it or not, you're all part of the plan. I gotta get off here before I get fucking emotional. There will be a day in between each story just for me to kind of get my bearings back. Going back to this place in full detail is a lot for me. Be sure you subscribe before you leave. All my social media is linked below. I did go live on Instagram and get completely ready using all of the new Friends X Makeup Revolution products. Again, my Instagram is linked below. I did save it to my IGTV if you would like to go and watch. Till the next time, guys. Bye.